The following is a Closet 501 production.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to our new podcast, Closet 501, presented by the Cleanup Crew. That's us. Obviously, Closet 501. This podcast room is a closet, and it's room 501.
Yeah, so the Cleanup Crew, we're a four-man crew. We got Jared Owens and me, Parker Haggard. We have Julius. He's kind of our animation, kind of technical guy. And then Isaac, he's another face you'll see later on. He's not here today, but y'all see him later.
All right, so our topic today is we're going to get into one of the biggest rising stars of the 50s, going in kind of the early 60s, but, it's Mr. Buddy Holly. Always been a Lubbock legend since he started blowing up, went on tours and all of that. So, Parker?
Just like a little bit of information of him before we get into our interviews with Mr. Sebastian. Buddy Holly was born September 7th, 1936, and he died February 3rd, 1959 in a plane crash. But here's our interview with Sebastian from the Buddy Holly Center.
It went through a couple changes, most notably as a restaurant. So there's quite a few people that are from Lubbock that remember going to the Depot restaurant. Mm-hmm. It closed down in the 90s. It was really big in the 70s. And then in 1999, it opened as the Buddy Holly Center. And so it was combined with the City of Lubbock's Fine Arts Center. Mm-hmm. And so that's why our museum is sort of split. Half of it has to do with Buddy Holly and half of it has to do with fine arts. Mm-hmm. So we have a rotating series of exhibitions. We usually do about 6 a year. So every 6 weeks or so, we will change out exhibitions.
All right, so there was Sebastian. He was talking about the Buddy Holly Center here in Lubbock. It's a building commemorated to Mr. Buddy Holly for everything that he did, kind of put Lubbock on the map, like locally, especially with his music. He went on tours, and Parker's got a little bit more information about that.
Yeah, so before we get into our next little interview with Sebastian, Buddy Holly, he first hit the charts May 27th of 1957 with his band, The Crickets. The song was Looking for Someone to Love.
All right, so next we still have Mr. Sebastian from the Buddy Holly Center, and he is going to talk about, just kind of run through the history of Buddy Holly and when he just started to get big and go on tours and things like that.
Working with a local radio station, kind of locally famous, there he was playing with a couple notable people in the West Texas area, Jack Neal, Larry Wellborn, and that's when they said they started playing. They were mostly playing country music. They always ended with some sort of a gospel tune. They had their own radio show that was half an hour on Sundays. So that was pretty cool. They started trying to branch out a little bit, and they ended up opening for Elvis when he came through. And so they played the Fair Parks Coliseum a couple times in 1956. Mm-hmm. And that's when they were discovered by Eddie Crandall, who was a record producer for Bill Haley, was an agent for Bill Haley and the Comets. Mm-hmm. So he noticed Buddy. He wanted to sign Buddy, and so Buddy was signed by Decca, which was a country music label at the time. Mm-hmm. And so he started playing, recording for Decca. He didn't really take off because they were much more country than he was. And so he was sort of looking for other avenues, and that's when he hooked up with Norman Petty mm-hmm. in Clovis, New Mexico. And so he gathered a couple of his friends together, and they went and played with Norman, and that's when his career really started taking off. Mm-hmm. He started booking bigger venues, bigger tours, most notably with Alan Freed on the East Coast, and so a lot of the tours early on in his career were on the East Coast. They eventually branched out to do all kinds of, they were one of the first American bands to really travel overseas, mm-hmm. and so they went to Australia, they went to England, and at that point, he wanted to sort of branch out into avenues of music. The other Crickets ended up staying here in Lubbock. He moved to New York with his wife, and so the Crickets were on sort of split up at that time. That's when he joined the Winter Dance Party tour, was when he was living in New York with Richie Valens and the Big Bopper. Deanna and the Belmonts was also on there. Frankie Sardo played a couple venues, and then at that point, you guys probably know the rest. But, he went on the Winter Dance Party tour. They played a show in Clear Lake, Iowa. They booked a small hopper flight from Clear Lake to Fargo, North Dakota. Their next show was in Moorhead, Minnesota, so it's right across the border. And so about 5 minutes after takeoff, the plane went up. The pilot got lost in the storm and ended up crashing in the cornfield. So, really long, rambly answer to your question, but that's about what I got.
It's perfect. All right. So first of all, we really want to thank Mr. Sebastian from the Buddy Holly Center and everybody that let us go in there. They let us look around and get some more information on this, which was really nice of them. So we just wanted to say thank you to them. But back to the interview. So obviously he was getting really big. He opened for Elvis. I mean, whenever we were looking around, we saw some really cool things. We saw his glasses that were recovered from the crash site. Those are in his little room that's dedicated to him. We saw his motorcycle in there.
Super cool.
2 or 3 of his old guitars, and there were a bunch of walls with just a bunch of stories. And we got to reading it. He was a really interesting guy. You can only really imagine what he could have been.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is a super tragic loss and super sad story just to see him go so soon. But I do think it's really cool that he was and he did lots of genres of music, not just one. Most artists nowadays, you see them just rap, pop, country. Yeah. But he was kind of doing several. I mean, I think that's super cool. I mean, it would have been great to see where he could have taken off and what else he could have done, especially with his talents.
I mean, yeah, we saw, I think he was really young, his late 20s when he died. And so it was it more ended like a what if story, kind of. Finishing the tour would have been really big for him, and getting to continue to play and write and record music, that would have been a really big thing for the 60s that were coming up. And he really did open a lot of doors for new music, though.
Yeah, and kind of what Sebastian said, I thought it was pretty cool how he did go off to New York, but he said the Crickets, the rest of the band, kind of stayed here in Lubbock. I think it's cool that a lot of them were still from here. Yeah. Obviously Buddy Holly was the more famous one of the group, but they were all kind of local guys, which is pretty cool.
So, I mean, I think that's really going to wrap it up. I mean, obviously, Buddy Holly was a really important figure in Lubbock. He's a local legend, old school music legend. Yeah. So I think that's really about it.
Yeah, I mean, we really do appreciate Sebastian for giving us his time and letting us interview him, and him letting us get a tour of the museum and just getting to know a little more about such a legend here around Lubbock.
All right, so I think that'll wrap up our first episode of Closet 501. It was presented by the Cleanup Crew, and we hope you join us next time.
Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to Closet 501. My name is Carson Ward.
And my name is Cesar Montez.
This month's topic is by teens, for teens. And we decided to go with the overall atmosphere and the academic side of the Lubbock High theater program. First off, we're going to start with the projects that they plan to do prior for their competition.
How you doing?
I'm doing well today. How are you doing?
Can I get your first and your last name?
My name is David Lyles.
So I have about a couple questions for you today.
Yes, sir.
The first question is, you used to teach at Hutch, correct?
Yes, I was there for 15 years. That's the first school that I started at, and I was the head theater director there.
Alrighty, and what made you want to move to Lubbock High School?
So the big thing was, it was kind of lining up that the doors were opening. My principal was retiring. We were kind of having a change in dynamic, and Doors were opening here. Miss B was leaving. Mr. K had approached me, and I'd kind of reached the point in my career where it started to feel like this might be a good chance for me to grow. As a teacher, I didn't want to feel like I had reached my zenith of teaching at the middle school level, and I felt like high school presented a lot better challenges. And so we had discussions and came over here, and so far I've had a really good experience in change in atmosphere. It's been great.
All right. One more question is, do y'all have any big plans for the theater program this year?
Yeah, we're currently working on our fall production, which will go up in October. It's titled Bacon. We have a musical production that we're about to start designing. It'll be Little Women in December. And then in the spring, we're going to have a traveling show for our elementaries. We'll have one act. And then just those things aside, we're just trying to figure out ways to keep growing the department.
Caesar, you're in this program. Tell me a little bit about it.
Theater? I mean, I like it. Theater's fun. The main thing about theater is I like building because, I know how to do framing. My dad taught me, so I feel like a big asset to the, society?
I guess. I mean.
Community. We'll say community. Because I built the set last year. I mean, I'm trying to build it this year, help it out a little bit. But right now we're cleaning out like the closets and all the dust and all that, taking all that out. We're going to get ready for the first play of the year. And so far, theater is just theater, man. I do technical theater, not theater. So.
Well, and you're in the third year class, so you've been doing this pretty much all of high school. So, based off of previous years, like what have y'all been up to the past couple years? You know,
we've been up to a lot. I mean, I haven't went on no trips with them, but they've offered me to go on a trip with them. Like, for instance, last year they went to New York. The year before that, they went to some other place. I don't remember, but we do a lot. Like, sometimes after school, we'll have like a movie, or like, what's it called? We'll stay after school and help them, and then we'll like have snacks and all that, watch a movie.
Like a club kind of.
Yeah,
Okay.
It's like a club. That was last year though. This year, we haven't really started nothing. We're just, like I said, just fixing up the shop closet, getting everything ready, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
Well, and you mentioned going to New York, last year or 2 years ago, and you didn't go, but you do. I'm sure you know how far they went. Like,
Yeah.
What were their achievements when they went to these trips?
They got third place again for the second time in a row.
So they got third place 2 years in a row.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's hear what your teacher had to say about that.
All right.
Last year, your one act play went all the way to state, did extremely well. It kind of, makes the expectations high. You have high expectations for this year.
Yeah, in conversations with Mr. K, we've gone to state 2 years in a row. We've placed third both years in a row. And I think that it takes more work to keep your organization at a certain level than it does to actually get there. So now that we've set this standard for the program, we know that that's the bar that we have to continually strive for. And so, that requires more thought, more time, more creative process, more collaboration, and harder work from the kids because they want to be there just as much as we do. And so we hope to keep that tradition going.
Caesar, what would you say the atmosphere is like in your classroom?
In my period,
Well, yeah, your period or just in general?
lame. We only have like 8 students in there, but we do what we can. Like there's about 5 boys, 5 girls. Okay, let's say 10. 5 boys, 5 girls. We get everything done. The girls do the painting. The men do the big boy jobs. Like today, we took down this big old door from the second story.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a little attic in the shop closet. We took it down. Had to take all of us. It was about 100 and something feet, or it weighed about 100 and something. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty heavy, but we all got it down, and yeah.
So would you say that the atmosphere over the 3 years you've been here, or I guess this is your 3rd year, but over the time of your period, or over your time in theater, has the atmosphere gotten better or has it gotten worse? Because I know this is your first year teacher from your middle school that came here to Lubbock High.
I'm gonna say it's been getting better because obviously we make it every year. We just get 3rd place. This year we're gonna go for 1st place, like Mr. Lyles was saying. to see him as my teacher back then, I didn't really pay attention. I didn't care. But now I'm like, got to step up, man. What if this is what I want to do? You know what I mean?
Right.
Something I want to do, theater, or this class too. I mean, LI's DTV is a very good class too, but theater is just more like productive. I mean, we do more stuff.
Right. All right. Well, we asked your teacher the same thing. We asked Mr. Lyles that, and let's see what he has to say.
That's it.
What's the atmosphere like for the kids in theater?
I would like to say that it's laid back but challenging. You know, kids that are choosing to be in theater have chosen to be here and want to be in this environment. They want to contribute. So like right now, my advanced class, they're designing our play. They kind of get to have creative reign. They feel like their voices are being heard. They feel like what they're doing is important, and they really enjoy that environment.
How important is academics in theaters?
Something that I've learned in teaching theater is that almost every realm of a job somehow falls into theater. I always used to tell my performance kids, you may never grow up to be an actor, but you have to have public speaking skills. You have to learn how to work with people. You have to learn how to problem solve, think on your feet. And a lot of what we do in theater, whether it be performing or technical, requires those types of skills that I find myself as a theater teacher, a lot of what I do here helps me in my everyday life.
So let me ask you something, bro.
Okay.
So like you were saying about the academic parts. At your school, I mean, I don't know if you have theater. Obviously you have theater at your school, right?
Right,
You ever
right.
took it or anything?
I haven't, but a couple of my friends have for, I think, at least 2 years. I don't know if they're in anymore, though.
Okay. Because Lubbock High is one of the best in the state, obviously. I
Right,
mean,
yeah.
They're pretty good at academics and theater, but I never heard of Coronado. I just wondered because, you know, we don't really hear about theater at Coronado. We just hear about their football team and how
Mhm.
good they are.
Yeah, I think our school is more so of a sports dominant school rather than extracurriculars, and I mean obviously we still have them, but okay. I have a question though. What is the student from your perspective? What's your perspective of your new teacher?
Mr. Lyles, he's an amazing teacher.
Is that all?
He's a good teacher.
That's all. You've known him since you were in middle school, and that's all you have to say is that he's a good teacher.
He's good. He's smart. He's intelligent. He's he thinks out of the box.
Thank you guys for listening to our podcast. We will be back here in 1 week.
Hello, my name is Xavier Guzman, and welcome to Closet 501, and I'll be your host for today's segment of The Insider. I'm the first ever host of this segment, so I'm just going to do a quick little introduction. I've been a part of LISD TV for around 2 years. I've mostly just been going to football games and help film the games and make the highlights in our class. So far, my experience with LISD TV has been an experience. And I plan to stay in this class for the rest of my time in high school. I learned a lot in this class, and I have improved a little editing and recording skills that I had, and built up more confidence from the last year, which is pretty much why I'm even hosting this. Also because this was the only position, and I got the short end of the straw. Outside of this class, I'm a theater and dance student at Lubbock High, and I'm a part of the Apex Legends esports team for Lubbock High School as well. If I'm being honest with myself, if I didn't sign up for theater in my freshman year, that way I could have a fine art credit, I wouldn't have gone back for my sophomore and junior year. Today's topic is faith in public education, specifically in sports and the FCA groups. Our first interview is with a Coronado offensive football coach, Zach Birdwell. Let's hear what he has to say about his job and how faith impacts his coaching career.
How has faith impacted the way that you not play sports? Because how do you coach the players?
I mean, as a coach, you get put on a platform to, influence kids every day. So any chance I get to be a positive role model for them, and to, just show them what God's love is all about, I take that chance. I grew up in the church. I was very blessed to have a mom and a dad and grow up in the church. And it's just always kind of been a big part of my life.
And then what got you into coaching football?
It's kind of something I've known all along that I've wanted to do. Kind of like I said on the last answer, you get put on a platform to get to be around kids and influence and mold them every single day. I played football and played quarterback, and that's the position that I coach now.
Our second interview is with a volleyball player from Coronado. Take a look at what Catalina Cotero has to say about how her faith helps with her mental health aspect of sports.
How does your faith impact your sports life?
When I'm struggling, I look to God for help, and I always talk to him when I feel like I need to, and he helps me get through all the hard parts of my sport.
How has sports as a whole impacted your life? Is it something that you go to relieve stress, or like what do you use sports for?
Well, sports is like pretty much my whole life, so I just kind of base like everything off my sport. So it affects me like a bunch mentally and physically, because I'm always doing volleyball and I'm always thinking about volleyball. But I don't think it's really ever that bad mentally, just sometimes hard physically.
Does your faith help you get through those hard mental barriers you have with sports? Like if you're continuously like losing, I guess, I don't know, or whatever, does your faith help you kind of surpass that?
Yes, that helps a lot, and our volleyball team is working on using God to help us with that and help us train ourselves mentally to be tough with God, and overall just the sport, just be tough mentally.
Our next interviewee is an Olympian and local legend, Bradley Atkins, who spoke with Emma at their recent Monterey football game. Atkins is a leader of the local FCA, or Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Let's hear what he has to say about why he's so invested in athletes and how his faith ultimately influenced his career and life.
We just want to start off with simple questions. What has it been like praying over the teams here? Like, why do you do that?
Yeah, it's just a beautiful opportunity to, just pour into these kids. And whenever there's an open door, an opportunity to do that, we just jump at the first opportunity at that. And my heart behind it is just to, see these kids do well, to see them, protected and kept safe. And ultimately for me, just, encountering God and seeing lives transformed and changed forever.
Awesome. And what is the FCA? Will you explain that to us?
Yeah, so FCA is a Fellowship of Christian Athletes. It was a organization that was founded upon spreading the influence of Jesus Christ through coaches and athletes. And you see the influence that coaches have in so many lives, and the vision and mission behind FCA is to see every coach and athlete come into a growing relationship with Jesus Christ, and it's to see the world just influenced through that. And FCA, while it does say athletes, it's A is for anyone. So if you do see FCA, just know you're welcome.
That's awesome. And I know Mr. Ward has told me that you are a humble man, but we want to know what your journey was like being in the Olympics, and just kind of how you got there, what you did to get there.
Yeah, so, the Olympics in and of itself is just the experience and dream of a lifetime. And I tell people all the time, if you ever get a chance to go and witness it and watch and be a part, you have to go. It's a beautiful experience where you see cultures from everywhere coming together, and this time of peace and unity that's so beautiful. And it was always a dream of my life. And the reality, though, of getting there was a lot of brokenness, a lot of pain, a lot of hard work, a lot of showing up when you didn't want to. And what people don't realize is many times leading up to those moments, I wanted to quit and walk away time and time again, just seeing the defeat and brokenness that I kept walking through. And my story is, God wasn't done with me. And I had people around me that, poured into me and kept pointing me in that direction. And now I get the opportunity to, because of that influence and platform, pour into others. And so, it was a lot of hard work, a lot of prayers, a lot of grinding and battling through tough times, if we're honest. So everybody sees that experience, but not realizing there's a lot that goes into it.
That's awesome. And what's some advice that you would give any student athlete who wants to achieve that dream that you had?
That's a great question. You know, as a chaplain at Texas Tech, we're getting ready to kick off the chapel. We'll lead every week, and this year, what I want to bring to these athletes that are at Tech currently is how do we actually overcome and battle through, you know, adversity? How do we overcome discouragement and frustration and pain? Because the reality is, at some point in your life, you will go through it. Life will knock you down at times, and I think a lot of times people just don't see that. And when you go through it, a lot of times we don't know how to navigate and move through it and build through it and grow through it. And so people end up staying in that place, you know, a little too long. And so what I want to provide people is, through my experience and vulnerability of the struggles that I went through, you know, how do we walk through those and come out better on the other side? Because what's going to me, lead you to those places of success that you want to pursue is, it's not what you do on the best day, it's how much can you get out on the worst day, and navigating those times, and how can we get better and grow through every season. And so I want to say in that, just continuing to fight, continuing to press through, even when you don't want to, even when it doesn't feel good. And how do we, within those moments, live with gratitude and live with thanksgiving? And Inky Johnson spoke yesterday, actually at Texas Tech, and one of the things he said is never take it for granted. And so my advice is, man, never take it for granted. Take every day with gratitude and give it everything you have. Leave nothing in question. Give it everything you have, and live life that way.
Thanks for that, Emma. We've seen a lot of amazing stories about faith in the public education. But now let's see what one of our members of our own team has to say. Caleb joins us to answer those same questions with a different perspective.
Well, hi, I'm Caleb Galbraith. I've been working the
Nice to
audio
meet you.
here. Yeah.
All right. How has faith impacted your public school experience?
Well, for me, I think it's always been about, like, I think the typical public school experience, especially in high school, is like a lot of stress, like a lot of like mental challenges you got to work through to ultimately be prepared to like go into the workforce eventually, which is even more stress. So I think it's just like battling through that, like knowing I have someone on my side. You know, I feel like people can get that with something that's not religion, but for me, I guess that's like what I found that like works for me, is like believing in something bigger than me helps me get through like the hardest parts of my life.
I see. What has your FCA experience like?
Well, I was in FCA in middle school. There's not a good FCA at Lubbock High right now, but anyhow, yeah, I mean, it was really good. We would like get together on Friday mornings. We'd do different things. We'd like watch videos together, do, you know, like little devos. We'd have people come in and talk to us. But yeah, it was good. It was just a good way to like meet other people that have the same beliefs that you do.
All right, last question. Why do you think FCA is such an important opportunity for students?
Well, it's like I said, it's a place where people that believe in the same thing as you and like can basically understand what you're going through a little bit better, where they can just get together and have time together. So, yeah.
All right, thank you for joining us. And that'll wrap it up for the first episode of The Insider. Until next time, I'm Xavier Guzman, and from the whole Insider crew, thank you for listening in.